The family was not immune to the troubles of this world. A famine struck the land of Canaan, and Abraham decided to lead his family south toward Egypt. However, he sensed a particular danger in that region. So he spoke to Sarah, "Please listen. I know what a beautiful woman you are. So when the Egyptians see you, they will surely say, 'This is his wife.' Then they will kill me but keep you alive. Please say you are my sister, so that it may go well with me because of you, and my life will be spared." Abraham was neither a liar nor a coward, as some critics have charged. Sarah was, in truth, his half-sister. And Abraham's caution was well-founded. Before long, events proved that Abraham's fears were well-founded. Some of Pharaoh's princes noticed Sarah's stunning beauty, a remarkable trait at her age. They reported on her to Pharaoh, and he ordered that the woman be taken. It is hard to imagine the anguish of Abraham or the fears that must have afflicted Sarah. However, it seems that she was treated, not as a hostage, but as an honored guest. Perhaps Pharaoh planned to woo her and impress her with his wealth and then negotiate with her brother to obtain her as a wife. Think of Sarah, looking out over the Egyptian landscape from a palace window or balcony. How did she feel, living within walls again, with a roof over her head, with fine foods put before her? Was she tempted by a life of luxury, perhaps a life even more opulent than anything she had known back in yore? Imagine how pleased Satan would have been if she had sought to abandon Abraham and become the wife of this Pharaoh. But Sarah did nothing of the kind. She was loyal to her husband, to her marriage, and to her God. Jehovah intervened to protect this beloved woman, sending plagues against Pharaoh and his household. When Pharaoh somehow learned that Sarah was Abraham's wife, he sent her back to her husband and asked the whole family group to leave Egypt. How delighted Abraham was to get his dear wife back. He appreciated another kind of beauty in Sarah far more, a beauty that ran deeper than her mere appearance. Sarah had true inner beauty, the kind that Jehovah values. That is a kind of beauty that all of us can cultivate. The family had recently returned from Egypt. They were encamped in the highlands east of Bethel, or Luz, as the Canaanites called it. From this lofty plateau, Sarah could see a great deal of the promised land. There were Canaanite villages and roads that led travelers to far-off lands. In all that panorama, though, there was nothing like Sarah's hometown. Note what the Apostle Paul was inspired to write some 2,000 years later. Speaking of the faith of Sarah and Abraham, he said, if they had kept remembering the place from which they had departed, they would have had opportunity to return. Neither Sarah nor Abraham looked longingly to the past. Rather than looking behind, Sarah looked ahead. So she kept supporting her husband in his sojourn in the land, helping to pack up the tents, move with the herds, and set up camp again. She endured further challenges and changes. Jehovah renewed his promise to Abraham, but still no mention of Sarah. Finally, Sarah decided that it was time to speak to Abraham of a plan that had been forming in her mind. She said, "Please now. Jehovah has prevented me from bearing children." Then she asked her husband to become father to children by means of her servant girl, Hagar. Abraham's reaction? We read that he listened to what Sarah said. Her proposal reveals a very human outlook. She thought that God was responsible for her troubles, and she could not imagine that he had another solution. Sarah's own solution would bring her pain and trouble. Still, her proposal showed an admirable lack of selfishness. It was not long afterward that Hagar became pregnant by Abraham. Perhaps convinced that her pregnancy made her more important than Sarah, Hagar began to despise her mistress. With Abraham's permission and God's backing, Sarah in some undisclosed way chastised Hagar. A son, Ishmael, was born to Hagar, and then years passed. Again, Jehovah promised his friend Abraham that he would multiply his offspring. God also changed the man's name. Up to this point, he had been known as Abram. But Jehovah renamed him Abraham, which means, father of a multitude. And now, for the first time, Jehovah showed where Sarah fit into the picture. He changed her name from Sarai, which may have meant something like contentious, to Sarah, the name familiar to us all. What does Sarah mean? Princess. Jehovah explained why he chose that name for this beloved woman. I will bless her and also give you a son by her. I will bless her and she will become nations, kings of peoples will come from her. Jehovah's covenant to bring forth an offspring who would bless all nations would be fulfilled through Sarah's son. The name that God chose for the boy, Isaac, means laughter. When Abraham first learned of Jehovah's purpose to bless Sarah with a child of her own, he fell face down and began to laugh. He was amazed and overjoyed. Not long afterward 3 men, strangers, came to Abraham's tent. It was during the heat of the day, but this elderly couple immediately hurried to welcome these guests. Abraham said to Sarah, "Quick! Get 3 measures of fine flour, knead the dough, and make loaves of bread." Hospitality involved a lot of work back then. Abraham did not leave all the work to his wife. He rushed about to slaughter a young bull and prepare more food and drink. Those men turned out to be Jehovah's angels. The Apostle Paul likely had this incident in mind when he wrote, "Do not forget hospitality, for through it some unknowingly entertained angels." Can you imitate the splendid example of hospitality set by Abraham and Sarah? When one of the angels repeated to Abraham God's promise about Sarah giving birth to a son, she was out of sight, within her tent, listening. The thought of giving birth at her age struck her as being so bizarre that she could not hold back. She laughed to herself, saying, "After I am worn out and my Lord is old, will I really have this pleasure?" The angel corrected Sarah with the pointed question, "Is anything too extraordinary for Jehovah?" Sarah's reaction was fearful, defensive, and only too human. She blurted out, "I did not laugh." The angel replied, "Yes. You did laugh." Was Sarah's laughter evidence that she lacked faith? Not at all. The Bible says, "By faith also Sarah received power to conceive offspring, even when she was past the age, since she considered him faithful who made the promise." Sarah knew Jehovah. She knew that he could fulfill any promise that he made. At 90 years of age, she bore a son to her beloved husband, now a century old. Abraham named the baby Isaac, or laughter, just as God had said. She explained, "God has brought me laughter, everybody hearing of it will laugh with me." This miraculous gift from Jehovah surely delighted her till the end of her days. When Isaac was 5 years old, the family held a feast to mark the occasion of the weaning of the child. But not all was well. We read that Sarah kept noticing a troubling pattern of behavior. Ishmael, the 19-year-old son of Hagar, kept mocking little Isaac. This was not mere playful teasing. The Apostle Paul was later inspired to call Ishmael's behavior persecution. Sarah saw this bullying for what it was, a serious threat to the well-being of her son. Sarah knew well that Isaac was more than just her son, he was assigned a key role in Jehovah's purpose. So she mustered up courage and spoke forthrightly to Abraham. She asked him to send Hagar and Ishmael away. How did Abraham respond? We read, what she said about his son was very displeasing to Abraham. He was fond of Ishmael, and he could not see past his own fatherly emotions on this issue. However, Jehovah saw the matter clearly, so he intervened. We read, "Then God said to Abraham, do not be displeased by what Sarah is saying to you about the boy and about your slave girl. Listen to her, for what will be called your offspring will be through Isaac." Jehovah assured Abraham that Hagar and the boy would be provided for. Faithful Abraham complied. Sarah was a true wife to Abraham, a genuine compliment. When she saw a problem, one that mattered to the family and their future, she spoke candidly to her husband. The Apostle Peter, himself a married man, later referred to her as a sterling example of a wife who showed deep respect for her husband. Sarah lovingly said what needed to be said. Many wives cherish Sarah's example. From her they learn to communicate honestly and respectfully with their husbands. They learn from Sarah's remarkable faith, love, and patience. Though this beloved woman was named Princess by Jehovah himself, she did not expect to be treated like royalty. It is small wonder that when she died at 127 years of age, Abraham began to mourn and to weep over Sarah. He sorely missed his beloved princess. Without a doubt, Jehovah God also misses this faithful woman, and he intends to restore her to life on a paradise earth. An eternal and blissful future awaits Sarah, and all who imitate her faith. If you enjoyed this content, please subscribe to this channel, hit that like button, leave your comments below and share it with your friends. Thanks for watching. God bless.